And Legion Hoops was reporting the Raptors to monitor Ja Morant's situation with the Grizzlies, according to Evan Sidery. But I do want to state Evan Sidery didn't actually state that the Raptors are interested. He simply noted that the Raptors will be another team to monitor for a potential keyword, potential pursuit of Ja Morant. Toronto has the salaries and picks to build an appealing trade offer to the Grizzlies. If the relationship with Morant worsens, Toronto shopped RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly over the offseason. So for today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the positives and the negatives of trading for Ja Morant and ultimately give you my opinion at the end of this video. So if you're ready to watch, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. So let's start with the positives, and for every positive, I will give you a negative as well. So let's talk about some of the positives of trading for Ja Morant, and that is that he has averaged at least 20 points per game or more for 5 straight seasons. That's a luxury to have for a Toronto Raptors team, whose offense has looked really, really good to start off for the season. But let's not act like this wouldn't be a great addition to have on the Raptors starting five. Now, for the negative of trading for Ja Morant, he won't help the floor spacing. The Raptors could always use more floor spacing, especially considering their center does not shoot a lot of threes. And of course, Scotty Barnes, shout out to him. He's had a great start to the season with his 3-point shot, but you always want players that are able to space the floor, which allows guys like Scotty Barnes to attack the basket. Ja Morant has shot 30% or less in 5 of his 7 seasons throughout his career. Some of the positives, again, to talk about trading for Ja is he gives you another go-to scorer to help in ISO scoring. Now, I know the Raptors offense has looked great, but when we talk about half-court offense, that is where the game really slows down, and that is where players like Ja Morant really come in handy, where, he give him the ball, he's able to create some shots and just create a lot of open looks for others as well. Now, another negative about Ja is he won't help team defense improve, and obviously for the Raptors, we know how this season has gone. The offense has looked good. The defense, however, has really not. And you really question, if you're trading for someone like that, you really do want someone to be able to help on the defensive side as well. Another positive he would add to the Raptors if they were to trade for him is he is an upgrade over Emmanuel Quickly. Now, we know Emmanuel Quickly's season has not gone the way that most people anticipated. In fact, he's making way too much money for the lack of production he's providing, and Ja would be an instant upgrade over our starting point guard. Another negative of trading for Ja Morant is we'll take the Raptors into the luxury tax. We know the Raptors are already pressed very, very close to that luxury tax. He makes $39.4 million this season. His salary will continue to rise. And for the Raptors, who have already paid Brandon Ingram big money, then you got Scotty Barnes making big money. You got their starting center making 28, 29, $30 million in the next few seasons as well. Do you really want to lock yourself in a position where you can't make future trades or you're stuck with that team you have because the fact that you traded for another player that makes a ton of money would be a huge, huge negative asset for the Toronto Raptors? Now, on the flip side, the one good thing about that is that he is locked into his contract for 3 more seasons. So you have him for 3 more seasons. This is not, an all-star player that you're trading for who's going to walk away in a year and a half, who's only got, 1+1 option like with Kawhi, where you had him in his expiring deal, and you weren't sure what was going to happen. Ja's going to be here for quite a few seasons, so it does give you that benefit and kind of the luxury of just not having to stress about that player leaving in free agency, because we know the Raptors have lost so many players since the championship and free agency, and that's been a big concern for them for quite a long time. Now, another negative of trading for Ja is that his attitude could ruin team chemistry. Now, the attitude concern is something that I always worry about with players, because oftentimes you'll hear fans saying, well, it's simply because, he didn't get along with the head coach. He needed a different change of scenery. But when you look at someone like Jimmy Butler, for example, he had issues in, Minnesota. He's got issues in Miami. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if by the end of this year we see some sort of reports about Jimmy Butler having issues with, whether that's Draymond Green or the Warriors organization. So unfortunately, with players like this, it is a headache to deal with, and it's not fun to deal with for the management point of view as well, because now you're all of a sudden you're forced to trade a very big contract, and it changes plans very suddenly. Again, if you're trading for Ja Morant, the reason you would trade for him is so you can lock him in. He's here for 3 seasons. You want to win basketball, but if he's got these attitude tantrums that he's throwing with, what you're seeing with essentially the Memphis Grizzlies, you really don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff, especially if not for the Toronto Raptors. Now, one of the positives of trading for Ja is he gives you a point guard who provides rim pressure. Now, that cannot be said, enough of, point guards that are able to do that because that's a very challenging skill to have, especially for point guards, usually the shortest position out of your starting five. And Ja's obviously very, very athletic. It opens up the floor so much more when you have someone, even despite his limitations with three-point shooting, we know that he can attack the basket, and it just creates a lot more open looks for the Raptors three-point shooter. So it would be great to have because Emmanuel quickly doesn't really provide that for the Toronto Raptors, and to have a point guard that can attack the basket relentlessly in the way that Ja does for the Raptors would be an absolute luxury to have. Another negative of trading for Ja is the Raptors will have to give up a ton of draft capital because let's be honest, if he's making 39 million, you're obviously throwing in RJ Barrett or Emmanuel quickly, one of the two, and those contracts aren't exactly viewed as positive currently as the NBA contracts go, especially not Emmanuel quickly. So if you are sending assets that way, they are anticipating that they will receive a lot of first round picks. And for those that may think you could buy low on Ja Morant, look at someone like Desmond Bain. He was locked in for several seasons, and because of that, the Magic had to give up a lot of first round picks. So Ja's a much better player than Desmond Bain. So I don't see why you wouldn't give up at least three first round picks or someone like John. Again, that complicates things for the Toronto Raptors, especially given the contract situations they have. But you're ultimately going to be locked in. That's essentially going to be your team for the next 2 to 3 years. And I don't know if the Raptors want to give up that many first round picks. And lastly, the last positive of trading for Ja Morant is he really elevates his game in the playoffs. Now, obviously, he has not had a lot of team success, but when you look at his stats, when you look at the way he has played in the playoffs, there's absolutely no doubt that he is able to take his game to the next level. And when you're trading for players like this, there's nothing better to have than a player that takes it to the next level during the postseason. I mean, on the opposite end would be trading for someone like Karl Anthony Towns, where you know what you're getting, but if he's not playing well in the playoffs, ultimately it seems almost useless trading for those kind of players because yeah, all the regular season success is great to have, but that means nothing if you can't perform well in the playoffs, which is not the case for Ja Morant. So he would be an excellent, addition to the Toronto Raptors. Now, would I actually want the Toronto Raptors to trade for Ja? I don't think so because of some of the negatives I've already listed, the attitude issue, the huge contract. And when you look at the Raptors' weaknesses as a whole as a team, they need more three-point shooting. They need more defense, and John necessarily doesn't provide that. So I do believe Ja's a very, very talented point guard. Do I think he's the right point guard for this team? Absolutely not. I don't think it would be very wise of the Raptors to trade for him. Again, and on top of that, you're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital. So I like Ja's game, but overall, I think it would be a huge mistake for the Toronto Raptors to trade for Ja. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Would you trade for Ja or would you not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And the trivia question for today is, what is Ja Morant's first name? Is it, this guy's a gangster. His real name is Clarence. Is it A, Clarence? Is it B, Demetrius? Is it C, T? Or is it D, Abdul? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.